Today. Thanks, Ron. Nice graph. Lavoslavs. Expectation versus reality? Oh, hey, yeah, that would make sense. Nice. Embarrassed about harvesting gear? You should be embarrassed with your entire conduct over the last year. There's bugs that exist in the game that were in the preview. You ruined the world, but AGS destroyed it. My name's Claysthetics, and we're running right into it. But don't forget to like the video. It's the only way YouTube knows I exist. This all starts with the New World community, and honestly, the majority of it is just confused and lost. The general attitude is the more you know about the game, the less you like it. It's kind of hilarious when I see someone with 500 hours posting about how much they hate the game. The reality is you hate it because you love it, you're addicted, and you're way too invested, just like me. And that's why I'm mad too. Because most of these problems, like duping or being able to code in the chat box, or something simple as swapping weapons on a little bit higher of a ping, or them not swapping at all. All this stuff has been here since the New World preview, but all got silenced by community managers and Reddit mods for real quality garbage like this, which a ton of people liked over something like this real post, which might have actually helped the Amazon team that clearly needed more time because the game still isn't done. You really need to stop forming opinions based on nothing. But it's honestly not your fault. You were just fed whatever the CMs thought you should eat, and it really backfired on them because now nobody gives a shit other than to see how bad Amazon's next fuck up is going to be. It is really weird, though, how you're only trying to get their attention now when Battlefield's community made Battlefield 2042 the worst game, well, one of the worst games ever released the day it came out. And when you look at New World, nothing's changed other than being promised more and receiving less, kind of like these server transfers that still don't work the way they explicitly promised. But hey, now you see where I'm coming from and why you start needing to inform yourselves with real fact-based opinions. To show you where my opinions come from, I've made one of the most expansive guides that exists outside of the database for New World. I'm in the best guild on my server, and I've spent 500 hours on a game made by a meme studio. Isn't that great? So to get into where I'm coming from, this is a PowerPoint presentation brought to you by AGS. This is pre-Into the Void. This is the dumpster fire that every single person in the Game.2 experienced, which is 1.1 Into the Void. And here's the most recent patch. It definitely fixed the slideshow that the Void Gauntlet made and possibly made Europe our overlords that are all super rich money moguls now. On some real shit, I hope that rollback doesn't delete your characters. I really do. Let me know how that goes, though. But the reality is, though, but the game is kind of just in the same place it was before 1.1, just with a lot more bugs in other places that the majority don't really have to care about. It's the minority of life skillers and bigger guilds that have to deal with all this stuff. And honestly, I know that lag in large-scale PvP situations is normal, but with Amazon owning 1/3 of the internet, they're probably the only company in the entire world with the capability to make a no lag PvP situation happen, and they need to do it. That would be the most game changing shit on the planet for games. When we take a look in the direction of big streamers and YouTubers, most of them are on AGS's payroll, so they actually can't say anything bad about the game or inform their communities about crazy shit. I got a list of what they need to do at the end of this video to put the game back on track, but I am going to flame out a bit before then because there's a lot of things that are happening that you need to be aware of. And the biggest disconnect I'm seeing here is probably what's close to happening with Battlefield 2042, where a community manager clip chimps something that an alt account or a crystal mom says about their feelings, sends them to someone higher up, way out of context, so they can try and push more random shit out rather than fix current problem. I'm trying to compare DICE directly to Amazon because they both had a massive disaster recently. And from a quick Google search, Amazon game environment clearly isn't the best. So from what Johan said, you aren't allowed to hurt team leaders' feelings by asking if they play the game. And it's very apparent that team leaders don't play the game on New World. The biggest difference here now is that DICE is actually fixing everything in Amazon's. Well, yeah, they're doing their best. Don't get me wrong here. I love New World, and I want to make the game succeed. I have way too much time on it to not be invested in it. I actually just want to see it go in the right direction. But the team really needs to start listening to people that are putting in real work and giving, like, real feedback, instead of whatever random nonsense this shit is. I had a real PTR to test all these changes on, but they decided to leave most of them off of it for some reason, other than the Void Gauntlet, which kind of made it more of a cock tease rather than a real play test. Because it's okay if the public test realm ends up being a dumpster fire. Nobody gives a shit about it. But something new that we got is that we are embarrassed. Well, it's very interesting that you should actually just be embarrassed about your conduct since the game came out. Everything you've done in the last month even needs a real positive change, and you need to stop rushing your inexperienced team, because it's very obvious to everyone, even that's not in your studio, that they can't handle it. But you did put yourself in the precarious position to rush fix everything you broke because you listened to all the wrong people. So good luck just trying not to inflate the economy any more than you already have. One of my big favorites, though, is banning 2,000 players in an attempt to get the community to rally behind you. If you hit the threshold, you got auto-banned, which means that some of the people that were banned were actually innocent. And thankfully, after many hours of talking with the worst support team on the planet, most of the innocent people got unbanned. And it's very apparent that the dupe is still in the game because as of November 25th, you still can't salvage or drop housing items on the ground. And the only way we could have possibly ended up here is pure ignorance. I omitted names for the implications behind that, but this is from some friends, guildmates, and community members that have had real quality interactions with support. And I can honestly say this behavior is disgusting. It's not what I expect from Amazon in any way, shape, or form, and this is actually pathetic. Don't worry, Rosie, we made the video right now. It's going good. And honestly, all you other support agents should just be fucking ashamed of yourselves. But this is the support you can expect from New World Amazon Game Services. Really reassuring. So when I see the support team acting as unprofessional, I have to start thinking how they ended up this way. So the only way we look is up. And with online communities inflating developers' heads into a god complex state, that's how you end up with rush patches and absolute disaster, or a frat party if you work at Blizzard, I guess. It's very clear that a toxic work environment stems right from the top of the ladder. Blizzard and EA are the greatest examples of this, and you can literally just Google Bobby Kotick scandal and you'll have everything you need to know about it. We're going to take a look at who's in charge of New World and who gives the devs direction. Vice President of Amazon Game Studios is Christoph Hartmann. He's been the head of some okay games, but never the head of an MMO. He said never ship until you're ready. Oh boy. After the Crucible disaster, this is something you think he would have stuck by, but clearly didn't. So that's why I was assuming misinformation is being fed to the top of the ladder here. Now, the studio head is Richard Lawrence. He actually has some MMO experience with EverQuest under his belt, and he's probably the only reason New World hasn't fully imploded yet, and is the only reason I really have hope for the entire team at this point. The production director, Jeff Charvat, who rose the ranks from the bottom. Respect for the grind, my man, but you clearly need to work on quality assurance for New World. These patches are clearly focused on speed. For business operations, we've got John Dvorak. And honestly, the only thing I can say to him is put the money into a real support team for New World. It needs it. But when we take a look at the orchestrator of New World, the game director Scott Lane, we start to understand this guy went from being the producer on a wrestling game to working on one of the biggest MMOs ever made. So now that we see that only the studio head has been part of an MMO team before, we kind of understand where most of our problems start to stem from. The first step they can take is starting by listening to real feedback and take their time. I think this will give them some real potential. I really do want this to be the next big MMO. So let's hope these guys take a stand and truly start loving the game that they're developing and creating. Or someone at King Bezos to come back and crack down on these dudes. They need their daddy back. Things haven't been the same since he's not been the CEO. This is going to bring me into what I think would actually make a difference for New World. Number one, we need a real apology from the leaders of AGS, not from a CM. We need the big five to promise quality over speed across the board, and that they'll actually just do better, deliver a solid game. Number two, put all the changes that you're going to put in the game on a PTR so they can be tested by our free labor. And actually listen to the feedback so we never get a 1.1 into the dumpster fire or a massive inflation of gold for the European overlords ever again. Number three, stop making changes that don't need to be made. The team is too inexperienced to be doing this, and you need to get them to do what you've promised they would do and have needed to do for over a year. It's ridiculous that we're getting random shit changes like Cumanus just being an absolute machine. For no reason at all, he just slaughters everyone who enters Mirkgard. Or like the chess changes that were by accident and overwhelmingly rejected by the community. It's very clear that these changes are being pushed by leadership that doesn't play the game. Number four, a real server. For one of the richest companies on the planet that owns 1/3 of the internet, you're the only ones capable of making a massive lag-free PvP battle a reality. This would be one of the biggest accomplishments in gaming, and honestly, you need to stop neglecting this for no reason at all. This would put you leagues ahead of every other gaming company on the planet. Number five, a real support team. Use an example like Wrath of the Lich King and before that. That support team was great. Everybody loved it, but you definitely need a dedicated support team for this. I honestly think if they did these five things, it would make the game infinitely better and it would just be a lot more fun across the board. And then they can work on doing whatever they want with the game, which hopefully isn't another 1.1. But for all you real motherfuckers that always stay until the end of the video, you know I love you the most. I'm sorry for not posting for a week. It was a mental roller coaster that finally exploded, and I'm actually just feeling better now that I'm off of it. So going forward, I have a ton of New World videos planned to keep you guys ahead of the curve, so you can look forward to that and know they didn't forget about you. The next one should be coming out on Monday or Tuesday, and hopefully we get someone that can represent the New World community in a positive way that can force AGS's hand instead of having them fuck around all the time. I would, but I only have like 600 subscribers, so unless we get that up, they won't even look in my direction. But I do want to thank you for watching. If you agree with what I said, make sure you share it around. Maybe somebody with a bigger platform agrees with one or two of the things that I said, and they can at least get a couple of these things in front of these guys. So thank you for listening to my rant. It was hard to get through without full flaming. I did have to rethink this one a few times because the first iteration was 40 minutes, the second one was 30, and well, you kind of get it. So I hope you have a beautiful night, that you stay blessed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.